Close the chat box. We are touching 80 start करें. She रजनीश को फोन कर दो. हम स्टार्ट करने आंसर. मैंने 11:30 बोला था. करने के स्टार्ट. क्या करना है स्पीकर एक बुक के देना. ये फ्रेम वाला है इसको स्पीकर वाला. आ रहे के लक्ष्मीकांत जी. मैं ऐसा नहीं बोला. बोलो क्या. आपको बुला लो उनका स्पीकर को टाइप करना चाहते हैं. सर भी आए हैं. ये बस सर्कुलेट कर दो. मैं कर दूंगा. ये शेयर में करते स्टार्ट. So I hope I'm talking to everyone. Morning, everyone. This is Dr. Pankaj Sharma, Organizing Secretary for the International Short-Term Finance, which has gained its popular name as ISTTP 7, with the chosen topic of biodiversity and environmental conservation, which is happening under Component 8, Enhancing Quality and Excellence to 7.0 scheme and Commissionerate and State Project Directorate College Education, Government of Rajasthan, India, which is being organized by Raj Rishi Government Autonomous College, Alwar, which is commonly known as RRC. and signing it from this newly revamped hall. On the behalf of Equitable Principal and from the organizing committee, I welcome you all to the third day of ISTTP 7. Giving encouragement to others is a most welcome gift. For the results of it are lifted spirits, it gives self-worth and hope for the future. Sometimes challenges and struggles are exactly what we need in our lives. May you welcome every effort, every struggle, and every challenge. May you आप सभी का इंटरनेशनल शॉर्ट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम 7 के तीसरे दिन में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आप सबका अभिनंदन मां सरस्वती ज्ञान और चेतना का प्रतिनिधित्व करती है वह वेदों की जननी है मां सरस्वती को समस्त ज्ञान साहित्य संगीत और कला मां सरस्वती की आराधना करते हुए इस तीसरे दिन की शुरुआत We are beginning the third day of ISTTP 7 by remembering Goddess Saraswati and worshiping her. A small and fast recap from the second day of ISTTP 7. We had 3 speakers yesterday and Dr. The first speaker was Dr. Joy, who was a professor at the University of Assam. And he spoke on utilization of biodiversity metrics for conservation and identifying entities. After that, we had Dr. Ravi Kanjan, who is from BBMK Dhanbad, Jharkhand, and he spoke on biodiversity taxonomy and identification of freshwater fishes. After that, we had Dr. Sri Sharma, who is professor and director from Java Lake University of Bhopal, MP, India. She spoke on biodiversity and environmental information, a psychological perspective. What is the use of a fine house if you don't have a toilet planet to put it on? To me, a lush carpet of fine nettles or spongy grass is most welcome and the most luxurious question. Something I would like to share with you all. I read yesterday when I was completing my 4th book of ICSTP 2022. There is a quotation I came across, and it says, if you don't understand the value of ecology, if you don't understand the value of environment, and you know the value of money, stop your breath and count how much you can count. So my dear friends, that's what ISTTP is all about. Let's join hands together and save the environment. So with lot of gratitude and respect, I welcome our first speaker, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Nath. Sir, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत, आपका अभिनंदन. And let me introduce you our speaker.
Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद sir. Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Nath is presently working as Associate Professor in the Department of Botany at Dean College in Nagaon, Assam, India. He is a co-coordinator of environmental studies in the college. He is a co-coordinator of webinar committee. He is a coordinator of Eco Club, and I don't think we can have more appropriate person to talk on environment. He has a big CV, but I'll just tell you something in a nutshell what I was going through. He has spoken many, he has spoken as a keynote speaker in many conferences, seminars, and activities. The list is long. He has got many research papers published at his credit. He has completed many projects with different agencies in India and abroad. And he has number of beautiful and wonderful research papers published in many international and national journals. सर आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका अभिनंदन है बहुत खुश है हर्षित है उल्लासित है हम आपको अपने बीच पाकर तो सर स्टेज इज ऑल योर्स यू कैन स्टार्ट विद योर
Okay, thank you. So, am I audible?
Yes sir, very much.
Yeah, can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Very good morning to everybody. I am very much pleased to be a part of international short-term course on biodiversity and environment conservation. I, on the other hand, would like to thank you all to allow me to share some of my experiences, basically on the biodiversity conservation. So, with these words, I am straight away going to the my slides, and if I am, it's clear, clearly, you are hearing me clearly, ma'am.
Yes, sir, you are audible very clearly, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So, so I am straight away going to my slide. Stop sharing my screen. So I'm going to. Can you see the slides, ma'am?
Yes, sir, we can see your slides, right?
Yeah. So the topic on which I am going to deliver my lecture is biodiversity conservation in protected areas. So in this context, I would go into the details of a case study on Laukha Wildlife Sanctuary, which is situated in the district of Nokang, Assam. So now, first, let us try to understand what is protected area. Protected area is clearly defined geographical space, recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal or other effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services and the cultural values, as has been defined in IUCN 2008. So these are the different IUCN protected area management categories. I'm not going into the details. Altogether, six categories are there. From strict nature reserve, wilderness areas, national parks, natural monumental features, habitat, species management area, protected landscape, seascape, and the last is the protected area of sustainable use of the natural resources. So as far as India is concerned, it includes national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, reserved and protected forests, conservation and community reserves, communal forests, private protected areas, and conservation areas. Now, what is the importance of these protected areas? It's actually effectively managed protected areas are a critical tool for safeguarding biodiversity, for maintaining ecosystem balance, preserving important habitats, building resilience to climate change, providing global food security, maintaining water quality, conserving natural resources, driving economic success. So these are the importance of protected areas as far as India is concerned. So I am straight away going into the details of the Laukha Wildlife Sanctuary, which is situated in the district of Nagaung, Assam. And I will give you a glimpse of this Laukha Wildlife Sanctuary. So as far as geographical location of the sanctuary is concerned, it is located between 26 degrees 30 minutes north to 26 degrees 20 minutes north. And as far as latitude is concerned, it is 92 degree 40 minutes east to 92 degree 47 degree east. And it is in the south bank of the river mighty Brahmaputra, which flows through the Assam. And is about this particular wildlife sanctuary is about 25 kilometers away from the Nagaung town, which is the district headquarters of Nagaung district. And let me just tell you about the Nagaung district. It is situated in the almost in the heart of Assam. So this is a map of the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. You're the Indian map, then the Assam, Northern District, and the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary is given. So this is a map which shows the position of the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. So as regards the geographical area, it is about 70.1 square kilometer. The climatic condition of Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary in general is monsoon time. The temperature ranges from 33.8 degrees Celsius maximum and 9.6 degrees Celsius minimum. And rainfall is 6,000 millimeters average annual rainfall. And the relative humidity ranges from 65 to 95%. That means it has got high humidity. As far as soil is concerned, as I have told you, that it is the southern bank of the river Brahmaputra. So it is very much rich in alluvial soil with a light texture and sandy loam. So boundary description in the north, it is the Bura Sapori Wildlife Sanctuary, another sanctuary which is situated in the north of this Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. Then in the east, it is the Nogang Chilghat PWD road is there. South, a rivulet is there known as Letrijan. And in the west, it is the forest road. So forest and the vegetation of Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary is mixed forest about 25%, grassland 35%, and water bodies 20%. So it's very much wise to say is that the major portion of this wildlife sanctuary is of grassland. As far as vegetation is concerned, it is low alluvial savanna woodlands, western wet alluvial grasslands, riparian forests, then Barringtonia forests, and the wetland vegetation. So this is all about the vegetation types. So this here's a glimpse of the photographs of some of the areas of this Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. A mixed forest stand of the sanctuary that I have told you. A close view of the grassland vegetation within the sanctuary. And this particular grassland is very much, you can say, good habitat for basically the rhinoceros. And history goes that in the year 1971, there were around 60 rhinos, but due to some disturbances and other human interference, the number has decreased a lot. It's next photograph is a portion of the highlands that lies inside. Then this is the swampy area or the wetland inside the sanctuary. So this is a map of Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary that actually I drew it based on the visual interpretation. You can very familiarly see the this map in the Google map and all this, but this is a map which was prepared by me based on interpretation. So here you can see the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary, the different color patches. This actually shows that where roads are there, parks is there, camps, then Brahmaputra Bandh is there, and then comes wetlands, then grasslands, woodlands. So these actually shows, and this yellow color, these are actually open land, you can say, which is very much used by the people who live as forest villagers for rearing their cattle. Here, in this context, I would like to mention one thing. We are very much concerned about the conservation of fauna only. But here I have given, I want to give stress on floristic diversity conservation. Plants form the key important in maintaining the biodiversity on the earth by providing suitable habitat, food, and oxygen to all other living beings. Endowed with the unique capacity to convert solar energy into chemical energy, plants synthesize thousands of compounds of importance to our lives at normal temperature and pressure without polluting the environment. But unfortunately, it's unfortunate that this valuable natural resource is depleting at an alarming pace due to the ruthless, you can say, unsustainable exploitation for commercial purpose and habitat destruction that is basically done by the human. A number of in situ and ex situ methods are being applied to conserve these economic and the valuable plants, basically including the endangered and the threatened species. So, along with this fauna, the flora should also be given equal stress so that the conservation is very much important for the very survival of living organisms. Then, as far as floristic diversity, the study of the flora of the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary reveals very interesting facts or findings, you can say. So it reveals that there are 375 species of angiosperms and 16 species of pteridophytes. So this is a statistical analysis of the different families, genera, and species of angiosperms and pteridophytes that are found in Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. So as far as angiosperms is concerned, it is a families, 93 families are there. Sorry. Genera 258 and species 373. Pteridophytes 12 families, 15 genera and 16 species. So this is all together, you can say total 104 families are there and 258 genera, 373 species. So this is, you can say, a statistical analysis of the different families, genera, and species of angiosperms and pteridophytes of Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. So here again, the 10 dominant families of this Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary that I have mentioned here, the most dominant is the Poaceae family, followed by Euphorbiaceae, Papilionaceae, Cyperaceae, Asteraceae, Verbinaceae, Acanthaceae, Caesalpinaceae, Commelinaceae, and Mimosaceae. These are the 10 different dominant species that is found basically in the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary. As from this, you can see that they are very much dominated by grasslands. So it's very suitable for the herbivores. So floristic composition of the sanctuary is found to be very quite rich. The vegetation of the flora of the sanctuary has immense utilitarian value. The largest number of the plant species, that is the 373 species of angiosperms, besides 16 pteridophyte species and some few species of lichens were also recorded in that particular area, which actually comprises around 70 square kilometers, including vast species of richness and diversity of species that is prevalent in the sanctuary. The proportion of this monocotyledons and the dicotyledons in the sanctuary was found to be 1:2.51. But as J.D. Hooker in 1904 estimated the proportion of the monocotyledons to the dicotyledons is to be 1:2.3 for the entire subcontinent, including Malaya. The distribution of the plant elements from the present area, study area, that means the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary, has a distinct affinities with the Indo-Indian, Indo-Malayan, Neotropical, Pantropical, and cosmopolitan floristic components. So this is again some of these photographs that are taken of Alvegia procera, very good timber yielding plant, along with Lestremia resini. This is also a timber yielding plant. And these are the plantations that was carried out by the Department of Forest, Government of India, Assam and then India, along with the herbaceous plants in the forest floor. So this is Imperata cylindrica, a very dominant plant species, basically the grass, a dominant species of the grassland vegetation of the sanctuary. And it's the Iconia cresceps. That's a dominant plant species that is found in the, you can say, wetland areas. And here, this is the Rhynchostylis retusa. This is in full bloom inside the sanctuary, and as you know, it's a symbolic flower or plant or orchid, you can say, of Assam. As during the Bihu, it's a very symbolic representation is there, this particular plant. As far as water bodies are concerned, Various aquatic wet forms. I have told you that 25% of water bodies are there they are in the form of hills that are locally termed as, you can say, ponds, large sized, then swamps, marshy lands, then rivulets that actually originate from the Brahmaputra. So this is again the Haldia Suti, the wetland that is situated in the northern boundary of the sanctuary, which actually demarcates between this Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary and the Bura Wildlife Sanctuary in the north. And this is the largest bill, you can say, large, huge pond known as Romari Bill, the largest wetland inside the sanctuary, which harbors a variety of, you can say, aquatic, both plants as well as animals. So this is the view, that is the Gorazan Range Office of the Lauka Wildlife Sanctuary, the main office, shed office, and this is a camp which is situated in almost in the northern boundary of this sanctuary. So here I have marked some rare plants. The sanctuary is one of the home of the several endemic plants also, and these plants are vulnerable to extinction also. So these are important focus given on this conservation efforts, and plant specialists and then holler henna antidysenteric, a very important medicinal plant. Then Rauwolfia serpentina, this is another important medicinal plant which is found here. And Helmintho, Stachaya, Zealenica, etc. These are some of the rare plants that is distribution. Their distribution is seen in the sanctuary and also in this region also. So due importance should be given on this rare conservable plants. Apart from that, large numbers of medicinal plants are also there. The sanctuary has many species of economically important plants, but their sustainable use still remain untrapped as the sanctuary is not properly explored till date. That is another important problem, though I've gone into the details of these, but till then, many others, and I was the first man to go inside and study all these plants. Till then, I cannot say I have done my work 100%. Majority of the plants are useful in different aspects of our life of the common people. Some of the species of the plants used as medicine by the local people, basically who are residing around the sanctuary, and also who is living inside the sanctuary as a forest villagers, meant for the conservation of the different plants as well as the animals, includes acacia, farinaceae, acarans, aspera, azalea marmelos, then asparagus raceme, caloptris, argentinia, cassia sophera, cassia thorax, Pretavia magna, Casputa reflexa, Synodon dactylon, Osimum sanctum, or Olfia serpentina, again to mention. And some of the timber-yielding plants are very important and widely seen in this particular wildlife sanctuary. They are Gamelina, Arborea, then comes Elvigia, Procera, Alstonia, Scoloris, Lestromia, Resini, and Treminalia, Arjuna, Ciliate, etc. And lots of others are there. A few to mention here, I have mentioned along with this medicinal plants, some other economically important plants, and because of which the people are on the verge or in the search of this particular plants, basically for the economic benefit. So from the study, actually, I have seen there are many conservation issues as regards as the habitat destruction. The natural habitat of the sanctuary has been destroyed mainly for the timber and cultivation purposes that I have told you. People enter into this basically for timber collection, and moreover the forest villagers, they try to expand their land by cultivation purposes. The major portion of the sanctuary has been destroyed basically near the Singimari and Laukwa area. These are the two areas of this sanctuary with the intention of permanent settlement and cultivation by the forest villagers who are supposed to be there for the conservation of the whole plants as well as animals inside the sanctuary. Moreover, biotic pressure is there. Biotic pressure in the form of fishing, collection of wood for fuel and house building materials, collection of thatch, the livestock grazing is a very high in the sanctuary. I will get you some photographs which will follow in the next slides. Illegal fishing is very common in almost all the water bodies of the sanctuary. Since nearby villagers are poor, many of them are totally dependent on the sanctuary for the fuel wood and other requirements, basically for the economic benefit. Hostile attributes, population explosion, this is one of the major problems. extreme poverty of surrounding villages are the major causes of biotic pressure on the sanctuary. Erosion, this is the natural one. Annual periodic floods of the Brahmaputra River is another major problem of the sanctuary, which causes erosion. In 2002, a major portion of the Romari Bill that I have shown you the photograph a few slides back, which is the Romari Bill of the sanctuary, silted up as embankments on the southern side was broken by the water of the Brahmaputra River. Then there is a management problem also. Many of Oxnia's weed, then comes weeds like Mycania micrantha, Cromolina, Odorata, and latest is the Mycus pudica are gradually spreading all over the sanctuary, thereby causing retarded growth of many plant species, which in turn is affecting the wildlife of the sanctuary. Then step, as reported, the forest sanctuary is not adequate and also not well equipped to keep control over the sanctuary to make it free from biotic interferences. Many forest staffs working on temporary basis for many years, very little remuneration. So they are very much less concerned about the conservation. Many of them are physically assaulted also by the people living nearby, and which have also demoralized them. So these that I have told you just now, large-scale deforestation that you can see near the Nolkata area, those small, you can say, those are the tree trunks remained that the whole area has been deforested. Then this is the close view of the deforested woodland. You can see the cut away tree trunks. This is the firewood that has been collected by the forest villagers, basically for the firewood. This is the illegal thatch grass that has been collected by the forest villagers within the sanctuary. So this is that I have told you, annual flooding. Floodwater submerging the low-lying areas of the sanctuary during the rainy season. Then the deforested land basically is left open for the grazing of the different, you can say, domestic animals by the forest villagers inside the sanctuary. This is the illegal timber recovered by the forest officials at the main office, that is the Garadan Range sanctuary that you can see. They are lying there. And this is the illegal fishing by the people basically in and around the sanctuary, who are residing in and around the sanctuary in the water bodies within the wildlife sanctuary. So now we can give some recommendations for this. Inside the wildlife sanctuary, human activities are so intense that a few forest official members cannot give enough protection to the sanctuary. The biodiversity of the sanctuary has great significance with its rich germplasm. The concerned authorities should take strict conservation measures to protect the habitat and biodiversity of the sanctuary. The forest villagers and the Tongya villagers who reside inside the sanctuary should be acquired from the village and disposed elsewhere, that means outside the sanctuary. The government should appoint well-equipped forest for better conservation works. All illegal activities such as encroachment, then comes felling of the trees, uprooting of the trees, grazing, grass and thatch collection, foliage collection, then illegal, you can say, fishing, and all this should be stopped. Invasive weed species like Mycania micrantha, Iconaria cresceps, this is a very important weed and common weed, I could say wetlands, Eupatoria moderatum, etc., should be removed as far as possible for better protection of the grassland and other areas. So all the forest camps in depleted condition should be repaired in a very few camps, mainly between the different areas where strategically they are very important, should be given protection. People of the nearby villages, Tongya villages and the forest villages and the encroachers use pesticides and trees, which are very harmful for not only the human beings, but also for the other animals and the plant species. So use of such pesticides and in and around the sanctuary, regular census of the wildlife animals should be given carried out. It is necessary to educate the local people of the area about eco-friendly activities and also about the importance of education. And they should involve in various management activities of the sanctuary also. So the JFM, that is the Joint Forest Management, should be introduced in the sanctuary to reduce the pressure on the resources of sanctuary. Here, actually, I have given more stress on the plants, basically, but though a large numbers of animals are also there, different types of fishes, different types of birds, different types of animals are also there. So their due conservation methods should be applied, and they or conserve the plants, then the animals would also not be concerned. So to conclude with, I can say here that this particular sanctuary, that is the Laukwa Wildlife Sanctuary of Naga district of Assam, is located in the Brahmaputra floodplain with an area of 70.10 square kilometers. The terrain of the Laukwa Wildlife Sanctuary is basically flat riverine plain and is interspersed with the canals and small water bodies. The climate of the area is tropical monsoon time. The natural vegetation of the maximum area of the city is covered by forest of the tall trees, grasslands, and wetland vegetation. The forests are basically tropical, semi-evergreen, and moist deciduous type. So the grassland of the area are tropical savanna type. The flora of the wildlife sanctuary comprises rich floristic diversity from where 373 different species of angiosperms under 93 families and 16 species of pteridophytes under 12 families has been found during the investigation. And it has been found that poaceae is the most predominant family of angiosperms, followed by Euphorbiaceae, Papilionaceae, Cyperaceae, etc. And as far as phenological, it is very much clear that the phenophages have different conditions that prevail in the. So there were some, I carried out some other aspects, biological spectrum, then comes other aspects, but in this slide I have not mentioned. So dominant tree species of the sanctuary is found to be Bombyx ceiba, followed by Elbigia procera, Benningtonia acutangula, then comes Laserostomia resini. And among the herbs, Imperator cylindrica dominate the sites, that is the Laukwa Wildlife Sanctuary, both in summer as well as winter. And is followed by Azeratum conjugoides and Mycania micrantha. So I carried out the study on the soil also, but I have not gone into details of this slide because of time constraints. So just to mention here, the soil is mainly alluvial in nature and basically clay loam and acidic in nature. And the presence of alluvial grassland and swampy vegetation in association with the deciduous woodland, the prevailing climate of the area help it to be an ideal for the rhino habitat and other wetlands. So the wetlands provide suitable ideal habitat for the avifauna and fish fauna as well also. But because of a number of biotic and abiotic factors have been found to exert influence on the vegetation of the sanctuary, which includes excessive and illegal collection of timber and house building materials, collection of thatched branches, browsing and grazing, weed infestations, then pests, etc. So these disturbances are accompanied by different physical, you can say, factors, basically recurrent floods, which cause irreparable damages to the sanctuary. So there is an urgent need to undertake for the constructive measures toward the conservation of the rich flora and the fauna and the protection of the habitat of this Laukwa Wildlife Sanctuary. And this is for the benefit not only for the present generation, but the posterity as well. So this is actually, I have shown you about the conservation status of wildlife sanctuary, basically the protected area. And here I have selected a particular case study of a Laukwa Wildlife Sanctuary in which I actually worked out, and I found all these. So this is a glimpse about the different actually plant diversity animal diversity, though I have not mentioned much. So I stress on the plant diversity, the conservation methods that should be required, and about the richness of these particular plants, and the need for the conservation. Though on the part of the government and all other organizations, they are carrying out, but awareness and knowledge of the people residing in and around should taken into account for conservation of this particular century. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. So I try to give you just a glimpse of the century. So thank you very much. It's now open for discussion.
So
It's all,
there are two questions. I will formally thank the research team for his deliberation. So I think the lot of aspects I was watching and I was going through the slides and everything. It was very beautiful and the dedication was very interesting and even I was well so thank you so much for your time and your work and thanks for joining us and I look forward to seeing you more in our coming conferences seminar. Thank you so much, sir. Sadhu.
my pleasure.
Thank you so much. So, dear delegates, we have circulated a message in the WhatsApp groups, and I'm reiterating here that please do mark your attendance. We have started the attendance system on the Google Meet. The attendance will be recorded with the email IDs and the phone numbers with which you have done the registrations. So do join, do log in so that you can mark your attendance on the Google Meet and it will be done automatically by the system. Thank you so much, and we the organizers appreciate your understanding on this a lot because it is mandatory as per the UGC norms that attendance should be 80% or above. A person having attendance less than 80% will not be issued any certificate of participation in any ISTTP. Thank you so much. So now it's time for me to welcome my second speaker, Dr. Gaya Bhatia, who is joining us from the most beautiful place in India, Kashmir. And let me introduce him to all. Dr. Yaya Bhatia is presently working as an associate professor in University of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, India. He has completed his PhD in zoology, fish and fisheries specialization from University of Jammu in 2008. Dr. Bhatia has an experience of 13 years and a research experience of 12 years in the field of zoology and with the specialization in fish and fisheries. Dr. Bhatia was a top ranked holder in the state in 10 plus 2 zoology lecture test conducted by Jammu and Kashmir Public Service Commission in the year 2008. Heartiest congratulations to you, Dr. Bhatia. He has published 51 research papers in reputed national international journals in the field of fish and fisheries. That's a great number. Recently, in February 2023, his paper is published in Aquaculture, which is one of the most reputed journals in aquatic sciences, having an impact factor of 5.6. Amazing. Moreover, he has participated in more than 50 international, national, and regional conferences, besides attending a number of workshops as well. He has also delivered lectures as a invited speaker and resource person in many prestigious workshops, seminars, and conferences, including Indian Science Congress. He is a life member of various societies. He has recently been conferred upon a fellowship by the Academy of Environmental Biology, Lucknow, Zoological India, Montana, and Congress of Zoology and Agriculture, Zoological Society of India, Montana. Is also a editorial board member and a peer reviewer of various national and international organizations presently. He has completed a DST SER funded project, Population Dynamics of Introduced Saprinus caprio in Dull Lake and its impact on lake ecosystem and local Schizophrenic species. And his focus of research is fish biology and technology, especially the impact of exotic carps on local fish fauna and the ecosystem. Dr. Bhatia has been associated with us since beginning. He also came and joined us in our online conference. Dr. Bhatia, I will request you to freeze the dates for our next online conference, which is happening from 12 to 14 July 2023. And we look forward to having you. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, आपका अभिनंदन है. And I would request Dr. Bhatia to kindly start the discussion. Sister, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mamta ma'am, for the kind invitation to the beautiful city of Alwar.
Thank you.
And I hope I am audible.
Yeah, very much.
Hope screen is also visible.
Yes, clear. Yeah, slides are visible and we can see as well. We can go ahead with the presentation.
So shall I start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Today, I am Dr. Yahya Bakhtiar from Department of Zoology, University of Kashmir. And today I am going to present my lecture on fish conservation, need and measures. And keeping in view the theme of the 7th International Short-Term Training Program, that is the biodiversity and environment conservation, which started from 9th of March and will culminate on 15th of the March. And it is a series of the short-term training program being organized by Raj Rishi College Alwar, which has been active for the last 1 year for organizing such conferences. And I thank the organizing committee for giving me an opportunity to be a part of these very events. And I will try my level best to be present in the offline mode as well. So today my topic will be the fish conservation need and measures. And I shall be talking about that why there is a need to conserve the fish and what measures we can take for the conservation of the fishes. So we all know that the animal kingdom is diverse. Besides the plant kingdom, besides the microbial, you can say, groups, we do have the great diversity in the animal kingdom, and we can see here that almost 50% of the total vertebrate fauna that belongs to the fishes. And keeping in view the fishes as a whole, it comprises the maximum portion of the fish, you can say, animal kingdom. So we do have the fishes in terms of the cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes, which have a great importance in the aquatic ecosystem. And if I talk about the aquatic ecosystem, there are two major ecosystems. That is the major ecosystem, but can be divided into the marine, brackish water and freshwater ecosystem. But the marine ecosystem, it comprises, as we all know, that the maximum portion of the globe, and that is why it is necessary for us to have a strong connection with these very water bodies, and we should try our level best to save these water bodies. Now we have moved on from the green revolution to golden revolution to white revolution to blue revolution now. Now there was pink revolution also, and now we are moving toward the blue revolution. That is, we are mostly dependent on fishes, and keeping in mind that there is a need to save the fishes, why there is a need to conserve the fishes, besides many importances, such as you should be knowing about the concept of the blue transformation, which I told that it's a blue revolution, which emerged from the 34th session of the FAO committee
on fisheries in February 2021, and in particular, there was a declaration for the sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, which was negotiated and endorsed by all FAO members, wherein the declaration was called for the support of an evolving and positive vision for the fisheries. And this was adopted by almost all the countries, that we should have a evolving positive vision for the fisheries and aquaculture in terms of the 21st century and for the future years, where the sector is fully recognized for its contribution to fight the poverty and malnutrition. So keeping in view the poverty and malnutrition, and if we talk about the nutrition, the fishes have no match, because they provide us A class proteins, the proteins which are digestible, the proteins which help to fight the undernutrition as well as the malnutrition. They are supplying the good quantity of the unsaturated fatty acid, which is good for our health as well as the cardiovascular system. And we all know that these days we do have a bad habit in terms of sitting in the rooms and keeping all our work being done by the machines and the laptops. So it is necessary for us to have the good and nutritional diet. So fishes provide us this kind of the diet. That is why we should save the fishes, we should conserve the fishes. And on the other hand, in terms of the generation of the employment, there is no match to the fishes as well, because they give us maximum profit. They grow at the 3D rate. They grow in length, breadth, and depth as well, to provide a maximum benefit to the aquaculturist. Then we have the very you can say experiences from the past. We do have the experience of the Norwegian spring spawning herring, wherein there was a total collapse starting from the 1960 to 1975. There was the collapse of the Peruvian anchovy, which collapsed during the 1990s. And there was the chaos in the whole aquaculture world and the fisheries world, because we are not talking about only these very fishes which are not so economical in nature, but in terms they are called as the food fishes or forage fishes, which have the ability to collapse the whole ecosystem, because they are a part of the ecosystem. And if the higher fishes, they do not feed on them, they will also be impacted. Now, what was the reason behind the collapse of these very forage fishes? We all know that there are many anthropogenic pressures which play an important role in the fishing pressure. Then we do have the temperature because of the climate change, acidification, lesser dissolved oxygen, algal blooms, habitat destruction, pollution. And then one of the ways, that is the aquaculture, can be an important reason, but many a times there are the shortcomings of the aquaculture as well, that we shall be discussing later on. And that what was the impact of the collapse? The impact of the collapse was not only in terms of the ecosystem, marine ecosystem, but the terrestrial ecosystem was also there was a problem with the terrestrial ecosystem, because they are the carnivorous fishes which feed on these very fishes. There are seabirds which feed on them. There are marine mammals which feed on them. And by the total collapse of these very forage fishes, these very animals, they were also impacted. Their population also deteriorated, besides the provision of these very forage fishes to the aquaculture industry as well. Then one of the important these very examples of the unabated hunting of the sharks, that also led to the decrease in the population of the sharks up to 71.1% from 100%. The sharks, they are hunted for their shark skins, shark leather, and that also being the topmost predator of the ecosystem, that also led to the imbalance of the ecosystem. Then we all know that, am I audible? Hello? Okay.
Yes, you are audible.
Then we all know that there are certain other fishes as well, the such as we do have the tunas, we do have the salmons, we do have the certain kinds of the fishes which are migratory in nature. And by the unabated use of the purse seine, that is the net which is just like a purse, and the trawler which catches these very fishes in tons in an unabated way, and these are over exploited and thus hindering the ecosystem, that is the marine ecosystem. Now, how this very fresh water is also affected. The fresh water is also affected by the overfishing, habitat degradation, pollution, climate change, and by the invasive and problematic species. By the introduction of the invasive and problematic species in the native regions, without thinking of the repercussions of the inoculation or introduction of these very invasive species in the native waters. Then how we can help these very freshwater ecosystems? We can help by restoring the wetland and rivers. We can remove outdated dams. We can halt habitat loss. We can stop overfishing. We can protect the wildlife. We can ban the pollution practices, and we can tackle the climate change as well, so that our this very water ecosystem or aquatic ecosystem rejuvenates, and there is the flourishing of these very fish species as well. And if this is the point to be cautious, we should be cautious of that. According to an estimate, the in 2050, that is 2050, if this loss to the fishes or over exploitation of fishes continues in such a way, there will be almost the collapse of the fisheries, and 80% of the world fish stocks, they are already overexploited. About 3 lakh whales and the dolphins, they are killed every year by the catching and by killing them. So there is a need for the conservation measures to be implemented in toto. So for example, we can see here that there is a huge difference in the production and utilization as well. That in terms, we are producing by aquaculture 193 tons, and out of which human consumption 177.4. There is still the gap between the production and utilization. So that is why we are moving and we are exploiting the fisheries resources in an unabated way. So according to the data, 70 million undernourished people in India, there will be 70 million undernourished people in India by 2050, and 870 million people out of 7.1 billion, they are facing the problem of the malnutrition. And by 2050, the food consumption increases by 2400 kilocalorie per day to 3000 kilocalorie per day. What does it mean? It means that we have to feed many more hungry mouths. We have to explore the different ways to find out the alternatives for the food compensation and food for those very increasing population. And over the years, on the other hand, we have seen the shrinkage of the freshwater sources and the input costs of the aquaculture. Even if we are compensating these resources by aquaculture, there is a rapid increase in the input cost that should be controlled. And unavoidable intensification of the high cost aquaculture and the share of calories derived from the cereals, it is also declining in India. So if we talk about the fish conservation, we have the data of 2017, where in the you can say International Union for Conservation of Nature, that is IUCN, that listed almost 1000 critically endangered fish species, and including 87 are tagged as possibly extinct. And there are many more which are which are endangered or which are threatened, and which are going to be extinct in near future if the fish exploitation continues to be in such a way. Now, what is this very fish conservation? We refer to the practice of protecting and preserving the fish population and their habitats in order to maintain healthy and sustainable aquatic ecosystems. The goal of fish conservation is to prevent overfishing and habitat destruction, and to ensure that the fish populations are able to reproduce and maintain their numbers. So this is in conformity with the sustainable development goals, because one of the sustainable development goals is the life below water. And if we talk about the life below water, that there is a need, that is SDG 14, that conserve and sustainability use of conservation and the sustainable use of oceans, seas and marine resources, that needs to be done at priority. So, what are the challenges? There are many challenges according to the FAO, according to NOA. We do have the many challenges, such as if there is a total population of the world is almost that has crossed 7 billion, and it is going to reach up to 8 billion approximately, and out of this very 3%, 38% of this very population is dependent on the marine and coastal biodiversity. So it means that the almost out of 8 billion, almost you can say 3 billion, they are dependent on the marine and freshwater resources. So if the marine and freshwater resources, they are not conserved at earliest, we are going to face a huge crisis. And one of the important ones is to save the coral reefs as well, because coral reefs, they are the habitat for the maximum and most of the biodiversity of the marine ecosystem. Now, what are the solutions? So we have to protect the marine and coastal ecosystems. We have to implement and regulate the unabated hunting and the exploitation of the fish resources. We have to fight the climate change. Then fishery resource, we talk about in terms of the SDGs, that fishery resources can help us to have the zero hunger, which is one of the important UN sustainable development goals. That the clean water and sanitation, it is also related to the aquatic ecosystem. Responsible consumption and production, that is, we should be responsible in terms of wasting the food, in terms of our exploitation of the fish resources. Then life on land, because most of the fishes, they act as the food for the many terrestrial animals as well, birds as well, mammals as well. So in order to save them, we have to save these very fishery resources as well. Then decent work with economic growth, that is in terms, and I was talking about the aquaculture industry as well. Now, aquaculture industry is growing, and which is playing an important role in terms of the eradication of the poverty and gender equality as well, because we see nowadays the most of the women, they have conceived the idea of the implementation of the aquaculture resources, and the aquaculture, they are connected to the aquaculture industry in such a way that they have economically flourished, and they have also reduced the burden of over exploitation to the natural resources as well, by culturing those very fishes which are in great demand. So we do have the sustainable inland fishery services. We do these very inland fishery services. What do? They provide commercial income, they provide livelihood and sustenance, they provide food and nutrition, they have the recreational services as well, because nobody will ever want to go to the polluted waters. Everybody will try to come and visit as a source of tourism to the most clear waters of the country, most clear water of the world. So that is why aquatic ecosystem also plays an important role in the attraction of the tourist, and thus increasing the tourism industry as well. Then it has cultural services as well. Then educational and scientific opportunities, ecosystem function and biodiversity, regulation of the freshwater quality, then regulation of the freshwater, you can say quantity, that is the flow liming, as well as the variability. Then what are the main goals by which we can conserve these very genetic resources or the fish resources? We can conserve that each and every living organism, that can be conserved in two ways, that is in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. Then we do have the in situ, we do have the conservation aquaculture, We do have the marine reserves and protected areas. We do have the fish conservation zones. We call them as the marine reserves as the MRs, or MPAs, that is marine protected areas, or FCZ, that is the fish conservation zone. On the other hand, in terms, if we are talking about the ex situ conservation, we do have the gene banks, we do have the captive breeding, we do have the cryo, these very cryogenic banks, we do have the sperm banks, we do the ova banks, where we conserve their genes. If we feel that some of the species, they are going to be extinct in near future, we can conserve their DNA, we can conserve their gametes, we can conserve their cells. Then if we talk about these very aquaculture sustainable and economical in nature, and the ecologically beneficial outcomes which come out of the aquaculture, they can be climate change mitigation. We can recover the species by culturing those very species which are very less in nature now. We can go for the biological control by culturing those species which help in the biological control. We can help in the habitat protection. We can help in ex situ conservation. That is, we can breed fishes them artificially. We can go for the induced breeding, and then we can transplant the eggs or the fertilized eggs in nature, so that their population is increased and the aquatic ecosystem is also flourished. Then we can go for the habitat rehabilitation. Now, there is best example of the habitat rehabilitation, that many times it was found that by habitat restoration of some of the species, for example, trouts, their habitat was restored in the marine ecosystem, such as salmons or the or other trouts. It was found that by restoring the habitats of the one species, it led to the increase in the biodiversity of that very area, because it is that one species is connected to the other in terms of the trophic level, in terms of the trophic, you can say, nature, because one species is dependent on another for the food, for the interaction, for cooperation, and many more. And then we can go for the coastal defense. We can we have one concept, that is bioremediation. Then we do have the assisted evolution, and then we can keep up the measures of the climate change mitigation. Then I was talking about the marine protected areas, that what are marine protected areas, that we should demark certain areas which play a key tool for the ocean conservation and management, and areas in the ocean that are managed over the long term, primarily for the conservation of the habitats, so that we can demarcate certain areas as the marine protected areas, which can prove to be certain habitats for the increase in the population of the certain endangered and shrinking populations. Then I was also talking about the fish conservation zones, that we should have the fish conservation zones, and which may help in the production of the deep pool refuge areas, production of the spawning habitat and reproductive individuals. Network for the fish conservation zones they also benefit the migratory species as well. Then prohibition of the destructive fishing practices, such as dynamite, such as the use of electrofishing, the use of chemicals, that should be banned totally. And when we talk about these very fresh fish conservation zones, we should prohibit the harvesting trees and along the river banks, so that along the side of the fish conservation zones, the forest areas may also flourish, which can be habitat for the different you can say seabirds, or the wading birds, or the river birds as well. And we should also prohibit sand and gravel extraction or the gold mining in those very these very fish conservation zones. So here in this very example, you can see if we declare this very zone the fish conservation or the no fishing zone, and then we can see that the population will gradually increase in this very place, in comparison to the other areas, and which can prove to be as the sacred space for the breeding and the, you can say, flourishing ground. Then, talking about the gene bank, we can have the gene banks. We can take the primordial germ cells from the endangered species. We can cryopreserve them, and if the species, god forbid, if the species becomes, you can say, extinct, then we do have the option for the xenotransplantation and the regeneration of the new species. And we can also conserve species from the extinction as well, if we have the live gene banks, or the with the gametes, or the gene banks with the DNA. Then I was talking also about the captive breeding of the fish as well. That we can captive breed the fish, so that we can overcome the this very we can overcome the problem of the extinction of certain species. Now, by captive breeding, we can produce stock for introduction, we can preserve genetic variability, we can produce stock for research, we can produce animals for public education, we can provide insurance against extinction as well. Now, what are the different ways of conserving the fisheries? We should regulate mesh size, we should restrict fishing during the breeding, we should go for the regular stock assessment, we should reach to the people, um, uh, or we can make the awareness programs. We should reach to the people which are unaware of the loss of these very species, which play an important role in the aquatic ecosystem. We should give licenses to the fishermen, we should not allow each and everybody to go for fishing, and we should reduce the population control. And our lab is actively involved in the some of the aspects of the conservation and the management strategies, that is the stock assessment, reproductive biology, in which what we do, we go for the stock assessment of the fish regularly, that is the of the aquatic exotic species, local species, that is schizophrenics, these are the local forage fishes such as Crossocylus, Diplocylus, and Pythia conconius. So we are regularly monitoring the water bodies of Kashmir, and we do have the large and huge number of the water bodies here, and we take stock of the population of these very fishes which flourish in these very water bodies. We go for the population biology, we look for the recruitment, mortality, exploitation ratio, and growth of these very fishes, and we further go for the virtual population analysis, we call it VPA, and we predict the population growth and exploitation. So some of the water bodies which we are working on right now, that is the Manasbal Lake, Dal Lake. We do have the Aripal stream. We one of the eutrophic lakes, that is the Anchar Lake, wherein we are studying the main causes of the reduction in the population of these fishes in the Anchar Lake. And we have also worked on the Visho stream, which is a very good tributary of the Jhelum stream. And these are the my colleagues which are just gathering these are the fishes. We are studying them, we are going for the length and weight measurements, we are studying their reproductive biology in order to know that which is their peak breeding season, and what regulations we should suggest to the government, so that the local, at least local species, they are concerned. And this is the beautiful river Jhelum, which flows between the Srinagar city. And this is my research group, that is from the fish biology and limnology research lab. And some of the research scholars, they are working on the limnological aspects, and some are working on the fish biology, and some are working on the macrobanthic invertebrates, some are working on the pollution of the water bodies, some are working on the physiochemical parameters, and some are working on the forage fishes. So we do have a great team to work on, wherein we try to measure out the try to know the causes of the loss and the decline of the important aquatic species from the water bodies of Kashmir. So this was all about the fisheries. So I was allotted the time of the 30 minutes. So I think that is enough for today. So we should work hard. We should as a human being, and as our duty toward the society, we should work hard to educate the people about the unabated use of the polluting agents, unabated use of pesticides, unabated use of weedicides, and over exploitation of the fishes. So we should educate the people. We should adopt the conservation measures, and we should adopt the organic aquaculture practices for the better implementation and the conservation of the fish resources. So as a fish biologist, it is my request to you all to save your ecosystem, to save the fish diversity besides the other biodiversity. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak in front of this very august gathering. So I hope you must have enjoyed this very lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatia. Yes, really enjoyed listening to you, especially the slides were so beautiful. Trust me, like we were spellbound and looking at your slides and really. Thank you so much. It was an amazing presentation. Appreciations for you in the chat box, and we thank you for your time. And I totally understand that so much efforts are being put into make such presentations, such beautiful presentations. Thank you so much for your time, and we believe and we hope that you'll stay with us in next conferences as well.
Thank
And
you.
we look forward to having you in Anwar in July. Thank you so much. आपको साधुवाद धन्यवाद आपका.
Thank you very much.
So now it's time for me to introduce our next speaker. She is Runa Kerenko, and she's joining us from all the way Africa, Nigeria. She's working in Mountain Promise State Polytechnic College from 2019 as a Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Co-Chair of Institutional Research at ISTTP, Program Coordinator, Master of Arts in Education. She's coordinator of social studies, major course for teacher education. Previously, she worked at University of Baguio in Philippines as the Director of Quality Assurance Office, Director of Research and Development Office, Coordinator of Research, School of Teachers Education and School of Natural Sciences, Program Chair, Bachelor of Secondary Education, Subject Head Social Sciences, and her other professional engagements were thesis dissertation advisor and panel member of Graduate School of Students Universities in the Philippines, regional technical advisor, project leads of the Department of Education University of Philippines, ACTRC, project leader, cultural studies of the National Commission of Indigenous People and Bulacan State University. Peer reviewer of various academic and scientific journals in the Philippines and abroad. Ma'am, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, Dr. Rhoda Virenko. We appreciate your presence and we welcome you with us. It's such a pleasure to have you with us, and we appreciate that you have given your time, your attention to this ISTTP 7. And I would request you to start with your presentation. You have to unmute yourself, Dr. Kaliko.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We can hear you, yes, and we can see your slides as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So I am tasked to say something about for practices here in the Philippines regarding the management of forests. May I know if my presentation is visible to everyone? May I know if my presentation is visible?
Yes, ma'am, your presentation is visible. We can hear you and see you as well. You can go on with your presentation. इसलिए 2 जगह से लॉग किया है.
I'm sorry, but I'm having technical difficulties. Why is it not moving? Dr. Sharma, could you help me here? My presentation is not moving.
Yes, yes, Dr. Levin, my presentation is correct. Your speech is also very clear. Please go ahead. We can see your presentation. Now it's gone. Before it was visible. If you need assistance, Dr. Galenko, you can share the slide. Yeah, now it's visible.
Would
Yeah,
this be
visible.
okay if I'm going to share full screen? It's not.
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
So I'm going to share something about indigenous forest management system in Mountain Province, Philippines. Before I start my presentation, I would like to mention that the contents are actually from our ongoing study. And since it's an ongoing study, most of what I'm going to present are taken still from the report of a funded project of the Department of Agriculture, Second Cordillera Highland Agricultural Resource Management, in cooperation with the National Commission for Indigenous Peoples. Some photographs are taken from online sources, but some photographs are taken by us. And I have no vested interest in this presentation. So I would like to share with you how our region looks like. This is the Cordillera Administrative Region. It consists of 6 provinces. And this one, Mountain Province, this is the site of our study. So this is Mountain Province and its municipalities. Bontoc is the capital town of the province. And this is one of our research sites, including this one, Sagada and Bisao. So these are the municipalities covered in our. I would like to show you some of the beautiful sceneries in the area before I will proceed to my main topic. We have here in one municipality in Bontoc, this is a barangay called Anaga in Sadanga. If you look at it, it seems like a small island, but it is not an island because it's not surrounded by water. It's actually surrounded by rice fields and mountain. This is the main transport area. That's the road. So if you would like to come to this barangay, you have to go down the slope of the mountain, cross a river, and then pass through the rice paddies or the rice fields before you could enter this barangay. We also have one barangay in Bontoc, that's the capital. It's called Samuki. Note here, this used to be pure rice fields, but because of development and because of tourism, hotels, apartments, and houses were built in this area so that the residential area already occupies more than 50% of the land area, meaning the rice fields are gone already. Many of the rice fields are gone, and in place of them are hotels, restaurants, and houses. However, this area here at the back, these are the mountains. These are not touched because it is prohibited by the culture of the people to touch on a communal land area. So this is not a private area. It is an area that is owned by the community. In another site that is in Sagada, which is actually a tourist spot in our country, we have here the rock forests. These ones are rocks, and on top of them are pine trees. And then we have here also the terraced vegetable gardens. So notice that even in the terraced vegetable gardens, houses start to be put up so that the garden terraces are slowly disappearing also. The community does not have any control on the activities going on in this area because these are owned by private families. Unlike, for example, in areas like this, which is owned by the entire community, so that it is the council of elders that would actually regulate the utilization and any activities that transpire in this area. Then we have here the hanging coffins. The hanging coffins that are actually made of the rocks. It is one of the tourist attractions in Sagada Mountain Province. Now in Basau, similar to that of Sagada, they also have the rock pine mountains. So if we look at this area, these are actually rocks with pine trees on top of them and other trees. So these areas are not touched by the community people because they are owned by the community themselves. Then we also have here the rice paddies or the rice fields, which are far from the communities because the people in Bisao have their settlements in the central areas or in the centers of the villages, but they have the rice paddies and their gardens in the outskirts. And similar to this one. However, these forests of the indigenous people are not exempted from man-made hazards, particularly forest fires during the summer seasons. So forest fires could simply be caused by cigarette butts that are thrown at the side of the mountains, or it could be caused by embers from the picnics or bonfires of people who went to a certain place for hanging out, or for picnics. So in those instances, it is not just the community people who help put up the fire, but even the Bureau of Fire Department are helping in putting out these forest fires. Although unfortunately, in many instances, when the area of the forest fire is very huge, it takes days before the forest fires could be put out. But what is good here is that after the forest fires are put out, they would investigate who is the culprit, and they're going to hold a ritual where the forest fires had taken place. This is the paradigm, the conceptual paradigm of our study. We anchored our study on Hart's indigenous peoples' worldview and tried to match it with the core values of indigenous peoples in the Cordillera region, so that we would be able to determine the indigenous forest management system and practices of these indigenous people. So according to Hart, man and the environment are connected and interrelated to each other. So the physical and the social environment are one. There is an invisible but a tangible band that connects man and his environment, and therefore this has to be respected. And because of this connection between man and the environment, the indigenous people consider land as life. It is the source of anything that sustains their life. All things have a role to perform to ensure balance and harmony. So it is not just the human beings, but even any creatures that live on land have a role to perform in the continuity of humanity. And most importantly, according to Hart, indigenous peoples believe in spirits. And this is what forms the core of the worldviews of the indigenous people of the Cordillera. So they espouse core values such as diligence, first need to protect the forests, collectivism because they have to work as one in order to protect and manage their land resources. A sense of the environment would enable them to love and appreciate the physical resources that they have with them. A strong family enable them to protect the resources that were handed to them from generation to generation, particularly the lands and the forest. And a strong sense of brotherhood that is needed, especially in the performance of rituals. A sense of adaptability and a sense of resilience, so that in the midst of development, the many developments that are going on, the indigenous people would still be able to preserve their culture. And so with this core values of indigenous peoples in the Cordillera and Hart's indigenous peoples worldview, we identified two indigenous forest management system and practices in our research site in Mountain Province, and these are corporate and communal. So communal land ownership is a property system that is exercised by the indigenous people, particularly as clans, over their Sweden lands, their forests, and their pasture lands. So this community people who are living in a certain area, which is called Ili, or that is a village, they have the responsibility to protect and decide on the utilization of the communal land, of the communal lands. So it is in these communal lands where the members of the community may get lumber, firewood, and wild game in accordance to customary laws. Fines are imposed when the resources taken from the forest are sold or brought out of the community. Although different places in Mountain Province have different terms for these communal lands. Examples are this. We have the lakun. A lakun is a land that is exclusively owned by a clan or the community, and they have permanent boundaries. So it is a very big parcel of land, hectares actually, but it has boundaries because a certain clan or group of families own this one. In contrast to the batangan, a batangan is a pine forest that is naturally made or created by man. It is created by man because when the when when the families or when the community people have cut down the trees, they have to see to it that they are going to plant new trees that will replenish whatever they have cut. And so, the Batangan never runs out of trees. There's always trees that they could get for the needs of the community, particularly to make coffins when someone dies, to make houses, although there is a limit to the number of trees that they could cut from the Batangan. And they also have the Saguday. This is the forest in open land or unproductive cropland. And this is open to everyone. Now, what is considered as a saguday is that agricultural area which is unproductive in the sense that it does not yield any crops. Crops are just growing, but they are not bearing the fruits that they are expected to bear. And so in that case, they become open for everyone. So if there are grasses in this saguday, this area could be used by the community as their pasture land for their carabaos, their horses, their cows, or even their goats. Now, I would like to focus on the Batangan in Busao Mountain Province because this Batangan system in Busao is considered as an exemplary model of forest resource management in the province. So this Batangan, which is also popularly known as Common di Umili. Common, it's common to the community. So in short, the Batangan is communally owned by a village. And it is segregated or separated by the elders from the wider non-productive area, which, as I said a while back, the Saguday. It is the elders who would determine how this Batangan would be managed, utilized, and protected. So any need that benefits the whole villagers is accessed in this Batangan or Kumon di Umili. Like for instance, if a school building will be constructed, the materials are taken from this area. A tree will be selected by an elder based on the purpose it serves, and it will be concurred by other elders. So the moment the trees are selected by the elders, community people will now be the ones to cut the tree, bring them to the community, make timbers out of them, and put up the school. So this is an example of a Batangan or Common di Umili. So this one here is the ili, or this is the village. And then far from the village is sort of a virgin mountain, a virgin forest, which is untouched and touched only upon permission by the elders and the community, and only for specific purposes. So these are the pine trees that could be cut by the people for purposes that would serve or benefit the entire community. So for example, when they are going to put up a structure that is for the entire community, like a gathering area, if they're going to put up a shade, if they're going to put up a school. There are times, however, that private individuals can cut trees here for purposes of putting up their houses. But that happens only if the person who is in need to put up a house is really poor and could not afford to buy construction materials. So in this case, could ask permission from the elders who are going to deliberate on themselves. And if they approve of it, they are going to limit the number of trees that will be cut down. Like for example, for pine trees, that it is the responsibility of that person who is the beneficiary to replace these pine trees with new ones. So it is for free. They are not going to pay anything, provided it is with the consent of the elders. Also, if they are going to uh, construct or build coffins for families who could not afford to buy commercial coffins, then one pine tree would be allowed by the elders, again, provided that the family of the deceased is going to replace that cut tree with a new pine tree. There is also another forest called Batangan di Dapay. So in this type, the ownership, the management, the utilization, and the protection are done by members of a Dapay. And what is a Dapay to these people? It is a sociocultural institution and structure where membership is composed of a cluster of households surrounding the structure. This is an example of a Dapay. It is actually a gathering place of people in the community, particularly among the elders. This one here in the center, this is where they light fire or construct a bonfire, especially in the evening when they are gathering to decide on cases or simply for socialization purposes. And then in these stones, this is where the sit down. Now, notice that there are houses here. So the owners of these houses are members of this DAPI. So they are the ones who are actually responsible for protecting all the natural resources in the community, like these ones. These areas here, these gardens, are not owned by private families, but it is owned by everyone here who lives near the DAPI, so that they can, several families would be planting crops in this area. This would be a garden for several families. So what is beautiful in the practice of these people is that they help keep the environment of the place clean. They help keep the resources of the community where they are a member of. And then lastly, there is the Pangapo. It is managed by the descendants of one family, either through affinity or consanguinity or class. So actually, this is a land, it's a big parcel of land that is passed from one generation to another. So the family or the groups of families, meaning the clans, may own this Batangan di Pangapo, and they are not allowed to sell it to anyone. It is owned by everyone. It is owned by every member of the family. So they cannot sell the forest. They cannot sell the, the gardens. They cannot sell the rice fields without the consent of the clan or the members of the family. There are instances, however, especially if many members of the family are illiterate, they are uneducated, there are certain instances when they are tricked by the educated ones. When the educated ones are going to make a contract or the titling of land, they exclude the other members of the clan so that they could sell the batangan, meaning the forest or their rice fields or their gardens. So the ownership is by virtue of planting pine trees and other permanent improvements or developments, are done in the forest or in the gardens or in the rice fields by clan members. So these structures could be like fire breaks, either through construction of riprapes, the construction of ditches, the construction of fences, or even the crops that they are going to plant. And so because it is owned by a family, by a clan, it is the responsibility to ensure the transmission of this forest, of this garden, or this land to their next generation. So as distinguished the other type of land management apart from the communal land ownership is the corporate land. So from the term itself, corporate, it's owned by a family. It's different from this one, this Batangan di Pangapo, because this is owned by a clan. That is a group of families. But this one, it can be owned by a family, the family itself. So for this corporate land management, the owners come from a common ancestor, like a grandfather or a father, a grandmother or a mother. And it could originally be a part of a communal land forest, like a part of this one. So, for example, here, this is a communal land forest. But if there are wily and wise members of the community, they could declare a certain area as theirs by undergoing a process called land titling. However, even if that is legal, that is strongly denounced by the people in the community because they are deprived of the opportunity to make use of these resources. So, in Mountain Province, a very good example of this corporate land management is a system called the Tayan. The Tayan system. So, how do people acquire this Tayan? Since it is a collective area that is managed also by the people themselves, particularly by members of a family. So when they're going to manage this Tayan, there are certain things that they have to strictly practice or strictly adhere to. One, they have to calendar rituals for the stages of the wet rice cultivation, or when they enter a newly constructed house, or before they are going to cut down trees. The indigenous peoples have different rituals. Like, for example, they have a rain calling ritual. They do this ritual during the rainy season or during the dry season when there is no rain, so that rains will water their gardens or water their rice fields. The indigenous peoples are going to do ritual, which is a rain calling ritual. And we could not really explain how it happens, but after the ritual, an hour or so after the ritual, sometimes even when the ritual is going on, in the middle of a dry season, rain is going to fall down. So that's how powerful the ritual is. There's also a ritual before they enter a newly constructed house. A ritual is necessary because the house, the material that was used to construct the house came from the forest. So that the elders are going to invoke the spirit of the forest to also protect the families, so that these families will also value the forest. And before they're going to cut down trees, there's also a ritual that they are going to perform for that. So basically, the management of the Tayan is filled with a lot of rituals, which involve, of course, the butchering of pigs and the invitation of people from nearby communities. So another practice that we have to observe is respecting the sacred sites that are found in the forest. The people, the indigenous people have identified certain ceremonial or sacred sites where they are going to perform the rituals. These sacred sites have to be respected by the people, so they are not going to use it as a picnic area. They even, uh, how do you call this? Prohibit people from passing by the area. They have to see to it that the surrounding area of the sacred sites are free from any litters or free from any garbage, because it is in the sacred sites where they do their community prayers, where they do the rituals, and they believe that in the sacred sites, the spirits of their ancestors who are guarding the forest and the rice fields and their gardens reside. They also have to fence the pasture land so that the animals, particularly the horses, the carabaos, and the cows, are not going to destroy the crops in the area, especially during um, rice, the rice harvesting and the rice planting seasons, because there are many animals that are roaming around freely in the communal forest. And sometimes these animals go down to the rice fields and they destroy the crops. It is also a practice that the community people have to prune the mature trees, especially before the dry season, because the people believe that if they are not going to prune the mature trees, remove the branches to be used as firewoods, then the forest will be prone for forest. The pruning of the mature trees, however, should be done by the men, should be done by the elder men, because it necessitates them to climb the the pine trees. The pine trees are very tall. They are huge. So it's actually difficult to prune the branches of the pine trees. And that is why it is the men, the older men in the community, who are going to do the pruning. Now, what do they do with the branches that they have pruned? These branches will be stored the community, probably in the barangay hall of the community, so that in case there will be a wedding, the couples will go to the elders and request for firewoods to use. When someone dies during the wake, the family could also go to the elders and request for these pruned branches to use as firewoods. So these the prunings from the mature trees do not actually go to the individual families, but they are to be utilized by the entire community on occasions that they need them. Another practice is the annual clearing and cleaning of the ceremonial sites by male members of the households. So take note, there is a specification on male members, not the female members. Why? According to the beliefs of the people, when the women go to this ceremonial house rites, or these sacred rites, the ceremonial sites, they tend to be noisy, tell a lot of stories, they sing, they laugh, and that disturbs the spirits. And that is why it is necessary that it is the males who are going to clear and clean the ceremonial sites. They take turns, like for this year, or for the first 6 months of the year, 5 families will be identified to do the clearing and the cleaning. And then in the next, after 6 months, before the end of the year, another 5 or 6 families will be identified to clear and clean these ceremonial sites. Also, the community or the family is mandated to protect the herbal medicines that are present in the area. So although it is a corporate area, let's say it is a forest that is owned by a family, but there are herbal medicines found in that forest. These herbal medicines are to be shared to the entire community, especially if the herbs are found only in the mountain or in the rice fields or in the properties of a family. The herbal medicines that grow in the community is treated as the property of everyone. Even if it grows in their private property, they cannot say that that is for them. That is our community. And then lastly, the people are tasked to keep their watershed areas clean, especially near the sources of water. In our research site, the mountain springs are usually water, and they put a hose in those springs for the water to flow in a community water reservoir. So it is the reservoir where the different households are going to connect their pipes. But sometimes that is centralized also. Like, for example, one water pipe for 10 families sharing in the water. So it is the responsibility of the community people to ensure that their mountains, their environments are clean, because that is the source of water. And polluting the land, polluting the mountains or the forest, polluting the rice fields, polluting the gardens, they believe that the pollution is going to seep underneath, and it is going to affect the quality of the water that they are using. So, to date, there are threats. The indigenous peoples are experiencing a threat to their Tayan system. Their threats are endangering both the corporate and the communal management of the system, actually. Because although the indigenous people value their culture very much, there are certain external factors that they could not control, like government laws and policies. A presidential decree 705 declared all forests in the country as government properties. And therefore, the forests that are owned communally, owned by a community, or owned by a clan, could not be given special attention and protection, because it is, according to Presidential Decree 705, a government property. So there is a certain limit to the decisions of the community people on how they are going to utilize forests. There's also a restriction on the certificate of stewardship. The community is issued a certificate of stewardship. It owns the forest. It owns the physical environment. However, when the government needs it, they have to turn it over to the government. So much as they would like to preserve and protect their forests, if the government needs it for something that's going to benefit the community, then they have to turn it over to the government. There is also the certificate of land award that sorts of restricts the decisions of especially of the family, to manage their property, because their property is still a property of the government. Much of the land of these indigenous peoples are actually not titled. They are under tax declaration for the areas where they have put their houses. But for most part, or for most of the land, is actually owned by the government. So what could be issued to the people is just a certificate of land award. That is, they are the caretakers, but they do not own the land. When there is a necessity for them to turn it over to the government. The other threat is the mining. Many multinational corporations are interested in the mountains of the Cordillera, particularly the mountains of Benguet and Mountain Province, because it is rich with gold. Despite the presence of a law, the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, that aims to protect the rights of the indigenous people, the government still allows the operation of big mining companies because they pay very big taxes. There are many instances when the community people sought the help of the National Commission for Indigenous People to help them restrict the entry of multinational companies who are going to engage in mining. There are times that they win the case, but there are also times that they lose the case. And coupled with this are changes in the perspectives and values of the people. There is money in mining, and there are people who are greedy, they are selfish. If they have the money, they have the capital, they can start the operation of small mining, even if it is restricted by the community or it is restricted by members of the family. It is easy for them to explain the benefits that the community could benefit from. Although it is a good thing that in Mountain Province, the mining activities are not as prolific as the mining activities in the province, in a neighboring province, which is Benguet. That's why many of the mountains of Mountain Province are still intact, meaning no mining activities have been conducted in these mountains. And then another threat, the erosions of traditional institutions. The younger generation this time are educated. They are professionals. So sometimes their decisions carry heavier weight than the decision of the Council of Elders, especially if the members of the Council of Elders are illiterate. So even if the elders would still want to instill the values of respect to the environment, stewardship of the environment, their decision could be overruled or overshadowed by the decisions of the younger generation who are educated and because they are professionals. And so that would lead now to the construction of houses in protected areas, particularly in the watersheds. It could lead now to the cutting of more trees, when in the past the elders would say that three trees would suffice to make timbers to construct a house. The younger generations would say, no, 3 trees are not enough. They can cut down as many as 10. And then the greatest threat in the land management system of the indigenous peoples is tourism development, particularly in because it is a tourist spot in the country and it has opened again after the pandemic. Much of the forest areas there have been cleared to give way to the construction of hotels, inns, homestays, restaurants, social establishments, and there are also swimming pools that are already constructed near the hot springs. Even if these are opposed by the locals themselves, the rich people in the community use their money to entice the locals to agree with them. They would say that the construction of hotels, inns, and others would provide employment for them. And employment means they would have a source of income to provide for the needs of their family. So these indigenous people would consider first the survival of their family rather than the preservation of their lands. So these are the threats that endanger the communal and the corporate management of the forest, the rice fields, and the gardens of the indigenous peoples in mountain province. So tentatively, we are concluding that the traditional land management system of the indigenous peoples is threatened by development. However, we see hope. This could be minimized when the people resort to beliefs and values. And we see that even the rich indigenous peoples who are their putting up big houses, hotels, inns, restaurants. They are recognizing the value of the environment, the value of the land, especially during the typhoon season. Because there was an area that was destroyed by the typhoon since the rain was very strong, and then the water from the river rose up also, and it flooded the area. With those experiences, the wealthy indigenous peoples are coming up with programs that would mitigate the destruction of the environment. So in that case, it is helping to preserve the environment. At the same time, it is serving their vested interests. So that ends my sharing. Thank you.
Please, click over the chat box. Wonderful session. We are at the conclusion. Thank you, Dr. Derenko, for the wonderful presentation. And I was listening it wholeheartedly. The Dayan system, it was such a new topic to us. And my heartiest congratulations to you for selecting such a wonderful topic, which was like very much like educating us. We were more into like learning new things from you. I think that's the success of ISTTP. There are no boundaries. We all are one and together to save the environment. We appreciate your time, and I know how much time you've been putting in to make such a wonderful and beautiful presentation. You have joined us for the very first time, and we look forward that you keep joining us in our future events also. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence, Dr. Garen. Thank you so much. So now it's time for me to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Gora Khan, who is PhD in economics from Jamia Millia Islamia Central University, New Delhi, India. Currently, he is working as the Associate Professor of Economics in Department of Economics, York State University, Nigeria. He is also a visiting professor at the Department of Economics, Cybernetics, Sumy State University, Sumy, his area of interest is development economics. Teaching interests are macroeconomic, economic growth and development, and econometrics. More than 13 years of teaching experience for UG and PG supervising MSc and PhD students, formerly worked in the University of Delhi, Jamia Millia Islamia, Gautam Buddha University, ITNU, and American University. That's a great tour, Dr. Khan. Publications in Texas Scopus, website. ABDC, UGC Care, and peer-reviewed journals, and 10 books have been published which are at his credit. External examiner of various universities in Nigeria and India for MSc and PhD. Member of various committees in the university and other professional bodies, different journals in Nigeria, India, and other countries. डॉक्टर गोरा खान आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, आपका अभिनंदन है, बहुत खुश है, हर्षित है, उल्लास है कि आप अपने बीच में आकर, and we look forward to hearing you. So I will request the stage is all yours and you can start with your deliberation. धन्यवाद आपका कि आप हमारे साथ.
Thank you so much. आपका बहुत बहुत आभार अभिनंदन to provide me opportunity to speak over it. Though the program is particularly related to the biodiversity and environment conservation, international short-term training program, a series of 10 trainings. But everything is related to the growth. When we are talking about environment, means everything is related to growth and development. When we are growing, we are harming by one way or other way to environment, to extract the things. So therefore, it is very important to know the how to analyze the data, particularly consumption, income, development issues. So at the outset, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the Ras Rishi Government Autonomous College, Alwar, Rajasthan, India. And at the same time, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to patron and principal Professor Dr. Hukum Singh, Principal RRC, Alwar, Rajasthan, India. And last but not least, Professor Dr. Mamta Sarma, who provided me the opportunity to speak on this very important platform. At the same time, I extend to my warm regards and sincere thanks to all the members of the college and participants, those who are present here. Today, we are going to talk over the e-views and time series data. How we are going to, use time series data for analyzing anything like dependent variable, independent variable. I think a little you have, or maybe some of you have more expertise over it. If you have any questions over it, I would like to address at the end of this session, and you're most welcome to ask me questions. Let me share my screen so that we can go through directly. And meanwhile, if there is any glitches or any issue, just let me know so that I can clarify the things, because in Google Meet we don't know whether I'm speaking myself or to participant. So let me share my screen. Did you see my screen? Any participant can speak. There is no problem.
Yes, very much visible. Dr. Khan, we can see your slides.
Okay. So this is the, let me close again and open again. This is the eViews 9
Yes, sure.
which I have here. Like, once we open the eViews, we have one dialog box here, and that dialog box here is called eViews work file. So if somebody wanted to manually create works file from Excel, one can click it this one and put it your data from, if the data is annual, you can put it annual, multi-year, you can put it multi-year, semi-annual, quarterly, monthly, bi-monthly, fortnightly, 10 days, weekly, 5 days, 7 days, and daily customs week, interday or integer date. So these are the things which we can do when we are going to create our own data manually. However, if I have data, for example, if I have data in my system, so I can go directly file, and once I go directly file, I'm going to click import. So before going to import on all other things, I just wanted to let you know this is the file on dashboard, the extreme left, uh, over the window. This is the edit, what you want to edit, undo, cut, copy, all these things. Objects, like printing and view option, view, this is not going to open without data file. Probe, this one also not working without data file. So let me bring the data. I'm going to bring the data, that is import, and once I click import, my another window will be open, which is data is existing in my computer, my desktop, and I'm going to make it, click it where I have the data. uh, so data I have here, and I have a small data of 10 years about the consumption and income of an individual or of a country, and it is a hypothetical data. So now you can see I have data. I just click over the data of consumption, time series data of consumption, and I have 10 years data, which start from 2011 to 2020. I have consumption data, CONS, consumption data economy, hypothetical economy, and income data of hypothetical income data of the economy. Can you see this one? Any participant? Any participant? Hello? Anybody?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to click next here. Once I click next here, the name of the file is years, and text I'm not going to put. Only headlines is one is there, that is years and consumption and income. So I'm going to put again next, and the data of 10 years is there. 10 sample size is here, and now I'm going to make it finish. So this one finish, like yes. Did you see another year? Another dialog box has opened here. Did you see here? Another dialog box open here. Did you see here? Anybody? 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 If you are not going to give me feedback, I don't know whether I'm teaching myself or teaching you. So I assume that you are understanding so far. I assume. So now I have a data of consumption and income, and here years and residuals are there. So let me go quickly on another things so that I can able to make you understand. Like if I'm going to make it one uh, file, let me like if I'm going to make a equation, y is equal to b0 uh, b0 plus b1 x b1x plus ui. So these are the, this y said that if I assume that here, consumption consumption is the functions of income, and this is very basic things in economics, or even you people used to do, and we all used to do in our daily life. Our consumption depends on our income. So this one, this beta b0 is saying that if our income is zero, at least somebody is consuming for the survival. And every individual, when they are not working, they don't have any income, their income is zero, but they are still consuming, and that consumption is called autonomous consumption. Whether you are earning or not, that consumption called autonomous consumption. And this beta 1 is the parameter coefficient of x, that is the income. And this beta 1 is what is simply that b1 is simply, let me make it b1, small b1 is equal to change in I'm coming, let me use symbol, I don't know that, yeah, change in delta, change in consumption due to, I'm coming, due to change in income. So this one is beta 1 is measuring, or b1 is measuring change in consumption due to change in income, means how much income is changing, and that change in income, how much percentage of that change income is going to spend over the consumption, that is called beta 1. And in economics we used to give the words MPS, marginal propensity to consume. Marginal propensity to consume, meaning that how much percentage change in income is going to spend over the consumption, that is called marginal propensity to consume. So this income is saying, is year wise income, and this b1 is representing that the change in income, and it is going and its impact over the consumption over a period of time of 10 years. So these are the explanation of B1 and B0. This UI we used to call UI we called error term. Are those who are know economics or econometrics, they know that this is also called white noise, error term, disturbance term. This error term is meaning that, everybody knows that the consumption is not only depends on income. Consumption is not only depends on income. This income can be salary income, can be rent, can be anything, can be anything. So meaning that this consumption is not only the functions of income. There are many particular items and many particular sources or resources which are combinedly affect to the income, that we are and that one is captured by this error term. Hope you people are getting what I'm trying to tell here. Anybody anybody, hello, anybody, hello, anybody, can you hear me? Hello. Okay. Now see this constant. That constant is this B0. That constant is this B0, and this residual is this error term UI. So now we have constant, we have consumption, we have income, we have residuals. So now I'm going to estimate, and that estimate means I'm going to calculate. Estimation means I'm going to calculate how this income is going to affect the consumption. So it's very easy. Go to the quick. Did you see this various key on dashboard? Did you see? So I'm going to click on quick, and I'm going to make it. If I wanted to make it like uh, if I'm just wanted to calculate mean median mode, let me show you this descriptive statistics common sample. I'm going to make it click here, and I'm going to write consumption, and I'm going to write again income. That is, income has come. I'm going to click OK. Now you see here, mean, median, maximum, minimum, standard deviation, skewness, kurtosis, you all used to calculate by like if mean. So you have to make it like x bar x x bar is equal to summation summation summation. There is a no symbol. If I'm going to use symbol, then it takes time, and we don't have much time. So here, if I'm going to use summation, here summation x divided by n, you used to calculate mean like this: mean of x, mean value of x like this, summation x divided by n. So no need to go for calculation like that manual. You just go to the, if you have a software like SPSS or eViews, even in Excel, easily it can be calculated. So this calculation called descriptive statistics, and you see the observation which we included in our analysis, that is the 10 years. So 10 years observation is there. So if you want to copy this descriptive statistics, you have to make it fridge. Once you make it freeze, it is already fridge, and you have to go like this and copy here, come down here, and directly you post it, you paste it here. See, now we get it, we get our descriptive statistics. You can remove this one, uh entire, yeah, you can remove here, and easily you can give the heading descriptive statistics, simply table 1 descriptive statistics, and it is directly, you can take it in your analysis without any manual or cut paste. Only you have to make it like this, no need to calculate anything manually, you just put it and you get it, this descriptive statistics. So mean consumption value is 21,049 rupees, and income is 25,000 for 254,697. So what is showing that, you see the income and consumption is not equal to each other, and it can't be equal to each other because the sorry, value of uh, value of MPC, not here, not here, not again here. Value of MPC, which I wrote here, where is that? Marginal propensity to consume. I just remove, I think, marginal propensity to consume. No, let me check it. No. So value of MPC, I wrote here, value of MPC is always, let me show you, always, mm, always less than 1 and greater than 0. So it means whatever you are earning, that all income is not going to spend over the consumption, and this results is supporting our statement. Similarly, median is there, maximum minima is there, standard deviation is there. So you see the standard deviation, and from income standard deviation is much deviation, means all the income which you are earning, you are not going to spend over the consumption, and that one is supporting our this concept. Marginal propensity to consume is varying between 0 to 1. It can't be. Why? Because if I say that marginal propensity to consume plus marginal propensity to, I don't know, maybe some of you read basic economics, so you know that marginal propensity to save is equal to 1. And if you want to marginal propensity to save, then marginal propensity to save is equal to 1 minus marginal propensity to consume. So it can't be go beyond 1. So therefore, even MPS here, marginal propensity to save, marginal propensity to save is always, one can see, less than 1 and greater than 0. So sorry, this one is mean here, this MPC or MPS is always equal to 1, and particularly if you want to calculate MPS, so you can get it MPS 1 minus MPC. Why 1 minus MPC? Because it's equal to 1, and MPS, marginal propensity to save, is always less than 1 and greater than 0. So this, our result here, which we calculated, is supporting our statement. So these are the part of the descriptive statistics. Let us go to the directly to estimate our to estimate this equation. I wanted to estimate. So directly I'm going to here, and I'm going to write consumption. Consumption. Be careful, if you are, if you give the name of the file CONS, and if you are typing only CON, and you are typing like C, like INC, and if you are calculating, it will not take. See, CON is not defined. So whatever the file you save, you brought into the dialog box, you have to save accordingly. So now see this CONS, it comes. Now I'm going to put it C. C is here, that is part of here, this beta 0, this part of beta 0, this beta 0, this beta 0. C, that is C. And this one is beta 1 is part of I'm coming. Beta 1 is a part of income, INC, and I click it here. So I have one dependent variable, that is consumption, and I have one independent variable, that is income. And if somebody asks why not you are including this one, UI is already in the system, that is residuals has been created, is also called residuals. So I'm going to use here you see specification option. So I just define my equation, and that equation is going to estimated by least square methods. Least square methods, it is a part of econometric basic estimation techniques, and it's called ordinary least square estimators, or ordinary least square estimation. Methods of ordinary least square estimation. There are various assumptions and properties of OLS estimators. Let's not go into that. I just wanted to show you how to calculate. So simply, if you are calculating the linear regression model, so you use this LS least square model, and the sample size is from 2011 to 2020. Only I need to click it here. Did you see this one? Let me freeze it and copy it and take it to the Word file, so that you can see easily. Okay. So let me make it another file and put it here. Did you see this one? Can you see this one? Hello? Hello? Anybody? Hello? Anybody?
Hello. Hello. Yes, sir.
Okay. Got it. So now you see the dependent variable is what? Consumption. Dependent variable is consumption. Methods is least square, which we use, that I told you, that methods least square. Today's date is 11 March 2023. The time here in local time in Nigeria is 4 past 9, and sample we use 2011 to 2020, and included observation is 10. So now I have variables here, coefficients here, standard error here, and t statistics here, and the probability value of t statistics against to the all the given variables. So I have constant terms here, C, that is representing here that B0. If you see, that is representing B0, that is the constant term C, and coefficient of B1 is income, that is representing this B1 income, and this coefficient is important, very important, because based on coefficients, the t statistics determine. So here these things are important for us. Let me make it red. And these two things are important to us here. I'm coming. No, it's not visible, maybe there. Yeah, this one. And the another one is important for us here. F statistics here. F statistics here. And I'm going to make it which color? This one. I don't know whether it is visible or not. These are the important things which I highlighted here. So the variables are there. One is the constant terms, that is the C, and other one is the income. So let us define this coefficient, standard error, t statistics, and probability. There are highly relationship between all these values of the respective coefficient, standard error, and t statistics. Let us start from C. This one is showing that, let me remind you, this data is a hypothetical data, so result can be anything. And even when you are calculating your own real data, the result can be anything. Only you have to defend your result by any way. And if the result is not good, not favorable, you have to look into your uh, data, revisit your data. So this coefficient, you see, if you make it coefficient, if you make it this sorry if you make it this coefficient divided by standard error, I'm coming, coefficient divided by standard error here, then you will get it your t statistics. You can calculate for now or any time. So you can get it this one easily. Coefficient divided by standard error is equal to t statistics, and the probability will we can check it like 10. And in economics, we always used to check it, the level of significance, at, not here, let me come down, level of significance uh, at 1%, 1%, and 5%. 5%. Meaning that if there is a 1%, it means the value of probability value is equal to 0.001. And if it is 5%, means probability value will be 0.05. And if this 0.001 multiplied by 100, it will be 1%. If it is sorry, not this one, 0.01, it will be 1%. And if you multiply by 100, this 0.05, it will be 5%. So meaning that if it is 1%, for example, I'm just giving example, so then I will come to here. The probability value, if the probability value of t statistics is like 0.01, it meaning that the error term which we are talking about, this error term ui here, are residuals. Meaning that if it is like, if it is 1%, for example, let me make it, if it is 1%, meaning that our estimation should be 99% accurate. accurate, 99% accurate. If it is 5%, for example, if 99% accurate, meaning that only 1%, only 1%, 1% error is there. Okay, this is the explanation. If it is 5% probability value, meaning that 95%, meaning that 95% our 95% our estimation or prediction about the variables is correct, and only 5% error or mistakes is there. Mistakes is there. So this is the explanation of the 5%, 1% level of significance and 5% level of significance. In other social science, some, and even in especially some other natural sciences, not all, but some natural sciences, 10% level of significance, they assume 10% also. Level of significance 10%, they assume 10%. 10% they assume. 10% they assume. 10% means the probability value of t statistics supposed to be 0.10, and no need to explain, meaning that 90% our prediction about the variables is correct, and 10% there is a error or mistakes are there. 10% error or mistakes are there. So that was the explanation of the level of significance. Let's come directly to here. Now see, constant term explaining that minus 66 minus 6600 12.832. If our income, and this one is our this one is our problem, that is negative. The data is hypothetical data, and maybe data is not very correct. That's why it's supposed to be positive. It's supposed to be positive. Why it is positive? Meaning that if our income is constant, you have to survive. This one is showing the average expenditure over the consumption, and this one always will be the positive. If it is negative, it means there is something wrong in the data sets. Standard errors, as I said, once you divided coefficient by standard error, you will get it this one minus. You can calculate, you will get it minus this one, and the against this t statistic, the probability value is given 0.20. It is insignificant value against the constant term, but we are not concerned, more concerned about the error term, about the constant term only. We are more concerned about the explanatory variable, and that explanatory variable is only here in this model is only income. So coefficient is a very significance here is there. Why? Let me explain here. The income coefficient is 0.108607. If you multiply by 100 this one, it will be 10.86, but no need to multiply here by 100. Here the explanation is that if 1 rupees income of an individual increase, okay, so the 10 paisa is going to spend over the consumption. 10 paisa, 10.86 paisa is going to spend over the consumption. Meaning that about 89.14 rupees is going to be saved. 89.14 rupees is going to save, and that saving rate is very very high, very high, that saving rates. And if you see the standard error value, that standard error value, if you uh, divide by this coefficient, you will get it this t statistics 5.73. And you see here the probability value is about 100%. It means our independent variables, explaining that the significance level of independent variable is 100%. 100% means our estimation is 100% correct. 100% correct. And you cannot stop yourself up to this. To check whether our explanation is 100% correct or not, you are going to check the R square. R square, generally we used to say that coefficient of determination. Coefficient of determination. Coefficient of determination, in statistics, maybe you used to study about the correlation. And that correlation is shown by small r. And here coefficient of determination shown by capital R, uppercase R. Meaning that the value of R square is 0.8024240. If you multiply by 100, it will be 80.42%. Because after decimal, we used to only consider the two value. So 80.42% variation explained by independent variable over the dependent variable. So somebody asked, why 80%, why not 100%? Because that 20% is going to explain by this error term, because we are unable to capture all observation in our model. So whatever variation which are unable to explain by this income, that is explained by the error term. Adjusted R square is 77.97%, which means that whatever R square cannot measure, that is measured by adjusted R square. So this one also backing our this result, that is the income is significant at 100% level over the consumption. So after that, you cannot stop up to that. You have to come down F statistics. F statistics and probability value of F statistics. If you see the F statistics more than 10, here since it is given 32.86%, meaning that this F statistics is talked about the specification of model. Specification of model. Specification of model meaning that if you are talking about consumption and you are taking the share prices, you are taking the exchange rate, you are taking the oil prices, you are taking the other variables which are directly not going to explain over the consumption, it means your model is not specified. So this probability value of F statistics is showing that it is significant at 100% level. It means this our regression model y is equal to b0 plus b1 x plus ui is highly specified. These others value is very advanced. I'm not going to into that, since we only talked about the how to use e-views in case of time series data, in case of time series data. So again, I'm going to repeat all these things, recapitulate for within a 5 minutes, since the time is running. Let me close this one. Let me close this one. Let me close this one. No, let me close this one. Again, I'm going to open my e-views. E-views 9 I have, that is the not latest one. And I'm going to open my file, import directly here. I'm going to see my desktop. and on desktop I have data about the consumption. I have made it here, consumption income data. I'm going to make it next. I'm going to make it finish. Yes, it has come. Initially told you the group statistics, descriptive statistics. So I'm going to common sample. I'm going to make it the consumption, 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 and income. And I'm going to click here. I will get it my descriptive statistics as I shown you before. I'm going to click it. No, I'm going to again to estimate the equation, and I'm going to write consumption. Consumption is the consumption constant term, and income, and then method is least square. There are many methods, so according to our requirement we use various methods. And the most simple method is least square estimator. And as I told you, there are various assumptions behind it and properties behind it. So those who are really know the econometrics, they know that what is the assumptions and what is the properties. So I'm going to click here, and I got here the result. Result can be extended, and you see the dependent variables in consumption. Method is least square, date is today's, time is now, sample is 2011 to 2020, included observation is 10, variables, coefficient, standard error, t statistics, probability value of t statistics. So constant term is there. This one, income, is important for us, and I can again repeat here the 10% means 10. The explanation of this coefficient is, if our income increased by 1 rupees, 10 paisa is going to spend over the consumption. How this will be? This will be explained by this here. See, if our income, yeah, let me make it here again. uh, if our income is going to increase by 10 paisa, so our 10 paisa, so our consumption is supposed to be 0.10. Sorry, if our income increased by 1 rupees, so our consumption is going to be increased by 10 paisa, and that one is equal to b1. That one is equal to b1. So, and this one is MPC, marginal propensity to consume. So if you see, if you want to find out MPS, so MPS will be 0.90 paisa, means paisa, meaning that if you are going to add 0.10 plus 0.90, it will be equal to 1 rupees. So this one is explaining our theory also. So if you are doing any calculation, that should be the backed by the theory, otherwise it will be problem. And the probability value of these variables, that is income, is significant at 100% level. R square is coefficient of determination, which is saying that the variation explained by independent variable over the dependent variable, that is the 80% variation. Income is explaining variation over the consumption by the change in income and spend over the consumption. And this one is backed by the probability value of F statistics, that is the significant at 100% level, which means that whatever model we estimate here, this model we estimate here, that model is highly specified, means the variable specification means the variables are related to each other. Like as I said, that if you wanted to estimate consumption, and you are going to take the share prices, you are going to take the exports, you are going to take the other variable which are not directly or indirectly related to the consumption, means the results will not be favorable. So this F statistics will not be significant. In that case, you have to redefine your variables, and then estimate your equation or your problems. And this can be explained over the various environmental degradation data, or uh, environmental uh, uh, climate change, or other data. Currently, I'm writing some issue over the carbon emission and its impact on economic growth in economic communities of West African states. And I try to make it how carbon emission affecting economic growth, or how economic growth affecting carbon emission, and then it is responsible for the environmental degradation. So these are all about which I wanted to explain. I can explain more, but since I have allocated 1 hours, I think almost 1 hours is finished. So I stop myself here. And if you have any questions, 10 minutes, you can please ask me. I will be happy to explain. Now, your turn, participant. Participant. Yes, Meena Kumari. Yes,
Open the chat box, please.
please ask me. Okay. Chat box.
If any questions, please write in the chat box, or if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself. If you have any
No,
questions,
it's better
please.
to better to speak. Better to ask me directly. Ask me directly. Pankaj Sharma, Meena Kumari, and others raise their hand. I would like to explain if they ask me directly. आप हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं, मैं हिंदी में बहुत कंफर्टेबल हूँ, आप बात कर सकते हैं. Sometime, we are unable to speak or express ourselves into the other languages. So आप जो हिंदी में भी वो पूछ सकते हैं, हिंदी में बहुत कंफर्टेबल हूँ, बता सकता हूँ मैं आपको.
Chat box.
Anybody? Anybody?
If there are
No question?
if there are no questions, no raising hands, we will share if possible, we can share the email ID of Dr. Khan, and you can ask him directly a question. If there are any more questions,
There is no problem. They can write me. They can write to me over the.
Designation and the email ID on the WhatsApp groups of us. And then if you have any questions, you can directly ask Dr. Khan. Dr. Khan, thank you so much. And even I was I'm from a biology field, being an environmental toxicologist, I was not able to understand much, but I was trying to understand the formulas you were depicting, and the income, and the how it is being calculated,
Consumption.
investments and everything. I was trying to understand that. It's a very new topic. And I would like to congratulate you for selecting such a topic which was never been discussed before in our series of conferences. I want to tell you that Raj Rishi College Alcor, and there is environmental toxicology unit is certified. He is very vigilant in doing conferences and seminars, and we have done well in 1 year. So I would like to thank you for such a wonderful presentation and all the means you have taken to make us understand these kind of things. It is totally a multidisciplinary, so you have people coming from very different areas of interest. And I would request you that please stay with us in our future programs also. And we have offline
Surely.
Yeah,
Surely you
offline
have my contact number. Surely you have my contact number. Even this one is my wife told me. My wife is biological sciences. She's a reader in biological sciences. So she told me that Dr. Mamta Sharma organizing one program. So I asked him, just ask her, so that I can give some idea about the things. Even on environmental data, I'm working on some climate change and carbon emissions. So it would be better for future endeavors, our future collaboration.
That's so kind of you, Dr. Khan. It's such a pleasure to have you with us as a keynote speaker. And I want you to freeze the dates. 12 to 14 July 2023, we are hosting an offline conference, and we would like to call you here as one of the experts as a keynote speaker in our Rajasthan.
I will be happy. I will be happy. I will be happy.
It will be 1 hour, trust me. And thank you so much. आपका बहुत साधुवाद सर, आपका स्वागत अभिनंदन. Thank you so much.
शुक्रिया, बहुत शुक्रिया.
Thank you so much. With this, we come to an end of the third day of ISTTP 7. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers who are very learned and knowledgeable scientists of their field and have spared their valuable time to be with us here in this training program. I would like to tell all the speakers that we, the organizers and the participants, are very happy and delighted to have you with us, and I hope you also had a wonderful time like we had. With this, Dr. Mundar Sharma, Organizing Secretary of ISTTP 7, Kanogata Matron Principal, and my technical team, Sheetal and Rishi and Dilip, is signing off from the campus of Rajasthan College. But tomorrow is your home assignment day. The question has been circulated in the WhatsApp group. If not, it is circulated. Please do your home assignment and send on the email entoxicol@gmail.com. Thank you so much. You have been wonderful people. Have a wonderful day ahead, and we'll meet day after tomorrow at 10:45 a.m. sharp. Thank you so much. Bye bye and take care.